Happy Friday, Andy!
Happy Friday, summer.
Happy Friday!
We're back. We're ready to go.
Yay! Hello, everyone.
We're back and ready to
In
go.
case you forgot us, this is Friday Nights with Jesus, where we study the Bible.
This is true.
On camera.
There you go.
Haha.
There you go.
Yes, we're back.
We were back. We were in
Live
Mark.
and in person.
We were in Mark.
We were, but we're not anymore.
We're not.
We're going backwards.
We're going backwards.
A little bit in time.
Perfect.
Yes. So, we're going to go to Malachi.
Malachi.
In case you don't know where that is, it's the very last book of the Old Testament.
The very last book.
Very end. And we're going to go to almost the very end of it in chapter 3.
Beautiful.
All right, so I guess I'm going to read.
This is how it works.
This is how it works, people. Chapter 3 of Malachi.
Yep.
Behold, I will send my messenger.
Can we just stop right there?
Really?
That's what we do.
I will send my messenger.
That's right. God takes charge, does he not?
Yeah.
Like, behold, hey, pay attention. I'm sending my messenger.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how cool is it that God steps in a moment and says, okay, I'm going to send my man, my messenger, my person, it behooves us to be in a place where God could use us to do that. Right? Now, again, there could be tons of prophetic talk here, and that this is about Jesus and all this, but this is
Right.
the only time that God says, I'm sending my messenger.
See, to me, this is where you should be scared.
Why
God's
so?
like, oh, okay, I gave you free will, and you suck. So, I have to send you some help.
We tried it your way, didn't work, so here's
Yeah.
the help.
Yeah.
Right?
Because it's usually that kind of way. Like, I don't know, who am I thinking of? I don't know. Everybody. Every time that God, sends somebody, it's like, okay, it's time for... Even in your Ezekiel 34, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is, I'm going to take over my flock now because you stink.
That's exactly right. Right? So God
I'm just going to take over.
God looks down, says, hey, there's a need for intervention.
Yeah,
Right?
intervention. That's the nice way of saying it.
The problem is when God sends his messenger, it's either, hey, I'd like to announce the birth of Jesus, or I'd like to announce that you have only a little bit of time before judgment comes, wrath comes,
Yeah, wrath.
something happens, right? There's no gray area where God's just coming down and chatting with us necessarily anymore, right? Instead, there's this, I need to warn you, or I need to tell you what's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, when he says I'm going to send somebody.
But the key here is it's his messenger, right? I always link this into the New Testament and the fact that it tells us that in the last days there's going to be a lot of people who claim to be the messenger of God, but aren't the messenger of God. So again, we need to be able to be in tune so we actually know whether this is actually the messenger of God or somebody just claiming to be a messenger from God. And there's a bunch of those people
False
hanging out.
prophets, false teachers, false everything.
That's exactly right. And then I love it because he goes on to define really how we're going to know that it's a messenger from God, right? Mm-hmm. Keep going.
And he shall prepare the way before me, and the Lord, whom ye seek, shall suddenly come to his temple.
Right. So I love the fact that what God says here is, listen, my messenger prepares the way for me, right? So we need to pay attention when people are saying things like, hey, judgment's coming, wrath is coming, when somebody says promises are coming, good things are coming, blessing is coming, favor is coming, we need to pay attention because that's preparing the way for what God is going to do if it's a God thing.
Well, and this is what I've said about other people, there were some videos a couple of years ago, I won't say whose, but you should do this with every video. But the person, had some dreams, prophetic kind of dreams, and, they threw them out there. And the part to me that was alarming was the message at the end, because this person said they were a pastor.
Yeah.
But even if you weren't a pastor, if you're speaking, thus saith the Lord,
Yep.
then it, again, it could be a new thing that you can't look up every message from people and say, well, it's not in the Bible, so it's not God, because he does new things and different things all the time. We don't know what he's going to do. But, his character doesn't change and his ways don't change.
Nope.
The way he does things, and he doesn't change. So this person threw out this prophetic word and then bookended it with, so stock up on guns and ammo and food, and I'm like, okay, that's not how God does it, right? God this preparing the way thing, like, yeah, he'll send a messenger, he'll send someone to warn you of wrath and warn you of judgment on these things, but just like in the New Testament where he says, you know, I will give you the way out of temptation, I will only tempt you as far, and then I will give you the way of salvation. It's always, here's the judgment, here's the wrath, but if you do this, you can escape my wrath.
Right,
it doesn't mean the whole wrath thing might not happen, but you may escape it. That doesn't mean you won't die necessarily, but you won't go to hell, right? Like, there's always, God always gives you hope.
Yep, exactly.
His messenger will always give you hope.
Yep. Always, all through Jeremiah, Isaiah, Ezekiel, there's this constant, I mean, most of it's wrath stuff, judgment stuff, like, hey, this is coming, this is coming, this is coming, but hope. even now, right?
Even going through Daniel and all the stuff with the Antichrist, and then the end stuff, it's all hope. That's at the end.
But you will know that if you know this whole first verse, right?
Right.
The whole first verse says, for those who seek me, right?
Right.
So as we're seeking God, as we're seeking the things of God, as we're seeking to be godly, then it says, then God will appear suddenly.
Right.
Right? So there's a message that's coming to prepare the way. Those who are seeking me are going to hear the message. They're going to get the message. They're going to be ready for it. And then suddenly I'm going to appear. It's all over. Whether we talk about the 10 virgins, whether we talk about stuff in the Old Testament, God warns and warns and warns and says, hey, you need to be ready for this. Ready, 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 ready. Seek me. Hear from me. Get me. And then suddenly it says, God is going to appear.
Yeah. I'm going to keep reading it because
Yeah.
There's more I want to say, but they don't understand it.
Yeah, go. Put it together.
Right. Whom you seek shall suddenly come to his temple, which, again, I said was very significant, that he comes to a specific place. Even the messenger of the covenant, whom you delight in. Behold, he shall come, saith the Lord of hosts. So when I read this earlier, the who you delight in, like, it just, like, the whole, like, delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. And it just, like, I don't know, it just kind of, like, tied in with this as, like, yep, if you delight yourself in the Lord, he'll give you the desires of your heart, but you will also be rewarded. You'll be covered. You'll be spared. You'll be all the things, right?
Yep.
It's about seeking him and doing it all for the right reasons and all this stuff. But who? What?
Nope.
Are you gonna say more?
Nope. I think
But
you summed
who
it up
may
great.
abide the day of his coming, and who shall stand when he appears?
See, I think that I love that, right? Because I think that sometimes we have this idea that when God moves, when wrath comes, the judgment comes, we are arrogant enough, prideful enough to think that we're going to be able to stand. There are people who teach that.
Oh my gosh, I can't take these people that I've said it so many times. Well, if the rapture's first, I don't want to go because I want to stay and be a warrior for Jesus, and I'm going to, like, be so tough. And I'm like, are you stupid? Like, seriously? Have you read Revelation? Like, well, you're going to be tough, huh? No, you're going to be hiding under a table, peeing your pants and crying. Are you kidding me? You're going to be a warrior for... No, you're not. I'm sorry, people, but none of us are that tough. We're just not that tough.
We talk about standing in the presence of your enemies, and we talk about all of these kind of things, and that's fantastic. Like, you want to be grounded in the Lord so you can stand in the face of your enemies.
Okay, standing in the face of the enemy is not standing in the face of the Lord.
There you go. Right. So the answer to this is not talking about standing in the face of your enemies.
No.
This is talking about standing in the face of God.
That's a whole nother level of fear.
Favorite phrase when I talk about the Old Testament is everybody who runs into God does a face plant. Period. End of story, right? Like, you are not good enough to stand in the face of the Lord. And that's super important for you and I to understand. Now, people out there are going to be like, oh, you're sorry. Like, it's why we have Jesus. This New Testament. Well, yeah, of course it's why we have Jesus. Jesus makes it so that we can stand. But let's just make this super clear. If it's you versus God, if you're standing alone in the presence of God, you're doing a faceplant every time. Jesus may walk up to you, lift you up, and hold you up and make you so that you can stand.
In front of Jesus, you're doing a faceplant.
That's right. But you're going to understand who you are in comparison to who they are.
Yeah, like, it's just automatic.
Yeah.
Like, it is, like, every time I hear that, I Can Only Imagine song, I'm like, you're missing the part where like I puke on myself because like you can't what will I do? Seriously, what am I gonna do when I see God?
I'm gonna
I'm gonna cease to like exist in any way that I've ever known. I'm gonna be like flattened. Like,
hi God, I'm Andy.
Yeah, no, like what? Like it's God.
Yeah. Well, and again, because we don't have that, because we've so made it about. I love the song "I Can Only Imagine." I think it's great.
I do too. I cry
Right?
every single time I hear it. Every single time.
Special meaning to me for many reasons. Lots of people for many reasons. But you are spot on, right? If we think we're gonna get to heaven and we're just dancing around and we're just everything's all great,
yippee!
You're going to be a human in the presence of God for at least a second. Right? And God's going to show you, reveal to you what that means. What that means is He's holy, you're not.
Oh, that's assuming you have a normal death and it all happens before all this stuff that's in the Bible. This is all about the day of His coming, right? Like, who can... Okay, you want to be here for that?
Yeah,
Okay.
We just need to...
I'd rather be the one coming back with Him and with my Xena Warrior Princess body and got raptured before all that. Like, I don't...
Much easier.
Yeah, no. If you're standing at the day of His coming, kudos to you. Yeah. Seriously.
But
I don't even know how you did it.
Don't listen to the people who are telling you that that's going to even be a possibility.
Apparently,
right?
You escaped the 1/3, the 1/3, the 1/3, the 1/4 of all the people that got wiped out of the planet, and you're one of the final few, with just the Jews, by the way, who are left standing. Good for you.
Yeah,
Congrats. You'll
arrived.
probably get an extra crown. Congrats.
Yeah.
Seriously. Like, I don't know. Like,
I think we need to understand who God is, right? Because as you read on, it's going to tell us why. The next verse tells us what's going to happen there.
Yes, for He is like a refiner's fire and like fuller's soap. And He shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and He shall purify the sons of Levi and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto the Lord an offering of righteousness. Yeah, refiner's fire. Like, again, we just read through words. I'm like, oh, okay, that's so nice. Like, no.
Yeah.
I made a video about this too, about like literally singing this song, like the refiner song, and like telling God, like burn me. Purify me, like, burn me holy, burn me right. Like, do you know what you're saying and what you're asking for? Because, like, then, like, I've been singing it for years to God, and then, like, He did it, and it doesn't feel good.
No, it
feels horrible. Like, think of, like, like Daniel and, why can't I think of any of their names right now?
Shadrach, Meshach,
Meshach, Abednego. Right, that's a cool story. They walked through the fire. Like, okay, like, really? Again, doesn't feel good.
Well, and again, it's so important to remember that the refiner's fire, it purifies things, right? And it's super thorough.
Yeah.
Like, right? You put something in a refiner's fire not because you just want to get out a little bit of stuff. You're trying to get out of all the imperfections, right? You want perfection. That's the whole idea. An imperfect sword breaks. An imperfect knife or utensil or whatever it is, it's going to break, right? So you want it to be perfect. You want all the imperfections out of there. That's exactly what God is doing. Now, again, you might be good compared to the person sitting next to you, but compared to God, you're not so good. So there are imperfections that you're going to have removed.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the whole idea of why God cannot stand one iota of an imperfection, right? It's not going to happen.
It won't be in heaven.
And you and I have imperfections, right? We'd love to compare to the humans over here because in comparison to them, we're great.
Right.
But that's not what you're comparing yourself to. You're comparing yourself to God's standard. And God says, I'm going to purify, right? But then He specifically talks about the priests, right? He specifically talks about the pastors, right? You want to talk about videos? Well, you made a video like that as well.
Yeah, I wasn't going to bring that one up.
Right? You made a video.
Nope, you should watch it.
A while ago, right? About
Months
pastors.
ago.
Right? And about how God's process is going to start with pastors and priests. And look at God verifies that. God says, yep, Summer was right. I gave her the right word, right? Judgment, purification, thoroughness. It's going to start with those who are supposed to be representing me.
Purge. He's going to purge the priests.
That's right.
I don't want to be purged. When you think about like Jonah coming out of the whale, like the whale puking him out.
No, I think that we have to have a proper perspective of this, right? I don't want to be purged either. but I do want to be purged of things that I'm saying or traditions that are getting in the way.
Right,
or
so that you may
theology that's wrong.
offer a righteous offering to the Lord.
That's right. So that when we get down to the bottom, we're like, yeah, I do want to do that. Undoubtedly there are things that we've said on Friday nights, that we've said in our own shows, that we've said in Seeds, that we've said while we're speaking to people. There are things that we've said that are just off.
Yeah, sure.
There are things that we've said that are wrong. I want God to purge those. I want God to say, like, Annie, off. Right? Fortunately, we tend to be people who are a lot more convictional in nature. When God tells me I'm wrong, I was like, I got to make it right. Right? But God says He is going to do that, right? But then there are things in my life I don't know that I want God to purge out, right? There are areas like there are my people-pleasing weaknesses, and there are, my fear weaknesses, and there are all kinds of other weaknesses that people know that I have. And they're like, I don't know, God, I think that's going to hurt a lot more, because that's not about me just, thinking something and getting it wrong. That's about me having a real weakness.
Well, yeah, we like to call it weakness because that sounds nice, but sin.
It's true.
Okay, but we don't want to be purged of our sin because we enjoy our sin. Like, we don't, there aren't sins that we do because, we just really didn't want to.
Yeah.
Like, sin is typically something we enjoyed doing.
Yeah.
Like, we wanted to do it.
We like it.
We like it. It feels good for a second or whatever. So, no, we don't want to be purged of our sin because that's what we like.
Yeah.
You want to hold on to it.
I think that's super important, right? That we recognize these priests, right? They're needing to be purged because not only are they misrepresenting God by accident, they're misrepresenting God by purpose, right?
Yeah, so that's where we go a little bit further. That's why I was like, this sounds like good. It's like, okay, yeah, he's gonna purify the sons of Levi, purge them, so that they can offer a righteous offering. That sounds like a very good, nice, good process. Yep, we should all want that. Yippee! Right? But then it says, then shall the offering in Judah and Jerusalem be pleasant unto the Lord, as in the days of old, as in the former years. And then God says, and I will come near to you to judgment, and I will be a swift witness against the sorcerers. Right?
Yep.
And I got stuck there because I'm looking at that as there are sons and priests and pastors of Levi and all the pastors, right? All the church people that can be purged, that can be refined, that want to be refined, that will be corrected. God's not just some crazy, he's just like zap zap zap, oh, you screwed up, you're done, no warning, no, he wants to refine you.
Yep.
But then there's sorcerers.
Yeah.
Okay? And those, that to me is, these are the priests and the pastors and the ministers and the whatever, right? Mm-hmm. That are they're the false teachers, they're the false prophets that are deceived.
Yeah. Yep.
They're not looking to be purged. They don't think they need to be purged. They don't want to be purged. They're just right. Mm-hmm. And that's it. And they are teaching and leading people straight to hell through a very twisted version of the gospel that looks like it and sounds like it.
Yep.
But it's just a little bit different, or a couple things missing, or we'll just skip the repentance part and we'll just add a double blessing like Job. It all looks very godly.
No doubt.
But it's not. And to me, that's the sorcery, right? I said they're like an alchemist an alchemist of the word, right? They just to me, that's so much more demonic than someone who's just straight up a witch or in the Church of Satan, because at least you know what they're about.
Yeah.
Okay, that's witchcraft, and that's all those things. This stuff is just as evil or more evil to me, because they've perverted the gospel, and it's Satan doing that exact is that what God said thing, right? And he just tweaks it just a little bit and uses these people, and that's why God said will I even find faith, and when he comes back, all this stuff and all these people that are saying I did this in your name and blah 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 and I don't know you, because it's just the majority. So many books, Bible versions, all these things out there that are just so off.
Yeah. So, man, everything you said there is, I hope people really listen to it, because it's smart. right? It's good and it's solid and it's foundational. What I think people ought to be nervous about is the fact that God says, hey, I'm going to deal with the people who are supposed to represent me. And then it says, then I will draw near. So you can sit there and applaud as God's dealing with the pastors in your area, as God's dealing with the pastor in your church, as God's, purifying them. And you can be like, oh, they deserve it. But then the very next verse says, then I'm coming after you.
Yeah, no.
Right? After the pastors are dealt with, then I'm going to deal with everybody else. Right? No, that's super important for us to remember.
That's what I said in that video that I made months ago. I said, listen, this judgment that is coming is going to start with the leadership of the church. I'm like, but the people in the pews are not off the hook. You are not off the hook. None of these people, no one's off the hook. You are not, if you have a bad husband or a bad wife, you're not off the hook because of them either. We all have our own choice.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure we're all the age accountability we like to make up.
Yeah.
You don't get to just say, well, I trusted man instead of seeking God on my own.
Mm-hmm. Again, this whole thing is about
seeking
God. Right. We have to seek God.
Seek God, not seek a good pastor.
And then here are all the things that are going to happen. But when you look at this list, again, it's God saying, those who are misrepresenting me, those who are distorting me, which is what you were talking about, and then those who don't have the heart that I have. God has a heart for the broken, the oppressed, the widows, the poor, the prisoners, the children. God has a heart for all those things. We see it over and over and over and over and over.
Right.
When you don't, you can fall under judgment from God when you're misrepresenting what he's saying, when you're using it for your own gain, right? But you can get in trouble also for distorting it for your own gain.
Right.
And then you can get in trouble when you don't have the heart that God has. You're walking around and you're using the resources he's given you, the talents he's given you, everything that he's given you, and you don't have the same heart that he has. Yeah. That's a harsh thing. That's what you're going to get judged for. But there's people who think hey, if I just avoid, I'm definitely not a false teacher, right? I don't ever want to be a pastor. I don't want to be accountable for that. I'm not going to be a sorcerer. I'm not going to be an adulterer. I'm not going to be all those things. First of all, the adultery talked about here is God once again talking about idols.
Well, cheating on him.
That's right. He's talking about people cheating on him.
Right.
He's not talking about you going around sleeping with people.
No.
Right?
God cares about you sleeping, cheating on him.
It's exactly.
Which is worshiping any other god but him, which is worshiping anything.
So now you got problems because I might not be a sorcerer.
Right.
But I might be cheating on God.
Right.
Right? Or I might not be having the heart. I might be not cheating on God. I have no idols. But I'm also not taking care of anybody.
Well, the rest of the list says, because I got stuck on the first one.
Yep.
Sorcerers.
Yep.
The adulterers, what you said. Against false swearers.
Yeah.
I thought it said sweaters. That's funny. Against those that oppress the hireling in his wages, the widow, the fatherless, and that turn aside the stranger from his right, and fear not me, saith the Lord of hosts.
Yeah, that list, you
can pretty much all the wickedness.
You can pretty much find yourself in there, right? Because
people that fear. See, I think the biggest group is people that fear him not.
Yeah, and we live in that world, right? Peter, we've talked about it before. Peter warned us. There's going to be a time in the end where people are like, yeah, God's never coming back. You've been talking about that forever. There's no coming. There's no God coming back. There's no fear of the Lord. There's no fear of this wrath.
No.
We go back to saying people really think that they would stand in front of God. They just do. They think that their righteousness is not as dirty rags.
No.
Right? Their righteousness, they could stand in. So somehow they're better than Abraham and Moses and David and Joshua and all the people. They're bigger and better. Know.
This is why I say all the time, you need to read the whole Bible. I have said it 5,000. I can't. I want to punch people when they're like, oh, it's just about the New Testament. Or the fact that they've even split it in half and you could buy just a New Testament drives me nuts because, the first thing when I started reading from the very beginning, because I said, do you even know what Malachi is? Have you ever even heard of Malachi?
Yeah.
Seriously, how many people? They have no clue what Malachi is. The first thing when I started reading through the Old Testament, first thing was I got, and a lot of people would say it's probably bad. It's not bad. I got this fear of God.
Yeah. Amen.
And you should, and it's a terrifyingly respect, like it's terrifying respect for God that you absolutely have to have. You should be terrified of God.
You
absolutely should be. That doesn't mean you walk around and be scared of screwing up. You have to understand his love and all these things together, which you can't do if you only read part of it. You have to understand the character of God the Father, the character of Jesus, and the character of the Holy Spirit, and how they're the same and how they go together.
Amen.
But they don't all show each part of them in just the New Testament. The New Testament is so short. It's so small. It's such a small part.
Well, we read it, and then things like idol worship and stuff, that doesn't make sense to us, even though Paul warns about it. If we go to the Old Testament, you see how these people are constantly drawn off. It's exactly like us.
It is us.
Right? You can find yourself in the Old Testament all over which character.
That's why we don't read it.
No, it's exactly. We don't want to read it because
I knew within 5 seconds that I would have been stoned to death 1,000 times by now.
Yep.
Seriously.
There's no doubt about it. And once you know that, then you're responsible to do something about it.
That's
the New Testament gives us more of rules and regulations in such a way that, like, we just got to make sure that we follow these things. And the easy thing is like, just don't ever desire to be a pastor. Don't desire to be a leader in the church.
Oh, yeah. If I do nothing, I can't be held accountable for anything because I did nothing.
Unless your names are Ananias and Sapphira. And then that's a problem because they got held accountable for things and they weren't leaders necessarily in the church. So I think this section is so important because when we put it all together, God is warning us that his judgment's coming, right? And it's going to come suddenly. It's going to come in such a way that suddenly God is going to appear. But he's been warning all around us, right? And that his judgment is coming to purify us. He's going to sift us. He's going to hurt. Right. He's going to purge us from things. He's going to start with those who have given the task of representing him. But then it's coming to everybody. And you're in this list, right? You are in this list somewhere. And God's like, I'm coming for you.
Yeah.
There you go. It's a fantastic place to stop.
Good way to kick back off on Friday nights.
It is.
A little fear and judgment.
Just challenging people.
Oh, in case you didn't know, there might be some wrath coming to the church.
That's
in case you didn't want to watch that video, because, who would want to watch that? We'll just sneak it in this way. Yeah. Friday nights. There's judgment and wrath coming to the church. Sorry. Repent.
That's right. God gives us
just
hope.
Repent, like now. It's seriously coming. I don't if you don't know, it just is. So, do you think we just magically got in Malachi 3 today out of nowhere? We just flipped through these 3,000 pages and fell in Malachi 3, or do you think that maybe God told us to talk about it?
That's exactly right.
We haven't made a Friday night in how long?
Long time.
Pray about it, maybe.
Amen. Pray. Listen, you can do all this on the front side. You can ask God to purge you, purify you right now. Mm-hmm. Right? God, seek me, search me, cleanse me. You can do it right now.
And then hold tight.
Exactly, but be ready to move. When God says, we got to work in these areas, you better want to do it.
Just do it.
Otherwise, you don't fear the Lord, and then you go back to the beginning of this.
Yeah, we don't want that.
That's exactly right.
All right. Well, I guess we'll start at verse 6. Next week, if the Lord tarries.
That's right. Good to join you again. Friday nights.
All right. We love you guys. Have a great Friday night with Jesus and whoever you're with. We will see you next week.